Hello and welcome to 6++. My name is Lee and today I'm going to be giving you another instalment of our new Me versus I series, which is really a culmination of lockdown in the UK and the fact that both Chris and I have both started some new armies that we're sort of interested in trying out, and today I'm going to be using mine. To be honest, for the second time. I have done another one of these videos already. It was quickly pointed out to me that my photography skills were not quite up to scratch, and they're probably not going to be this time. However, I will do my best to not shoot in portrait and ruin the videos. And with that, there is a caveat that I'm filming this not in our usual studio, I suppose, which means I don't have the normal lighting, the normal camera, the normal mics. The terrain is different. So sort of just bear that in mind, that it's probably not up to the normal quality that we would like it to be. But obviously it's just, it's still good to sort of get some dice rolling. In the game today, the reason why we're doing these sort of short videos is just to sort of get a feel for what it is that we're missing in our lists. So they're going to be a bit snappier, a bit shorter than the normal videos. We hope it will still give you a little bit of tactical insight, and of course, I will be playing both sides. So objectively, trying to make the best decisions for either army. Today, I'm going to be playing one army that I know really well, which is my Tzeentch army. I've played that quite a few times now. I've been playing Tzeentch for a long time. And the other is the new Slaanesh army that I've started in the From Grade to Greatness series. So I've played these guys once in another game, so there's definitely a lot for me to learn there. But as I'm building the list and sort of figuring out what to do next, it's really helpful for me now to sort of start to play them and figure out what works, maybe what's missing. Obviously the army has been doing quite well in the countries where tournaments are being played, but that doesn't mean to say that they're going to work for me, so I sort of need to figure out how to make them work. So for the list then, I'm going to start with the Tzeentch army. So this is sort of built around two Lords of Change. The last time I played them I had three. Obviously I had Chris's Lord of Change then, which was great to use. But at home I only have the two. So it's going to be two Lords of Change, one with a staff and one with a sword. And I'm also going to have a Herald on disc as well. I'm using the Magister model from the 8th War box, which is great. I've also taken 30 pink horrors with an icon and an instrument, and another 20 pink horrors as well. Two lots of 10 brimstone horrors, two chaos spawn, which you'll know I absolutely love, just to sort of fill out the board a little bit and sort of secure the corners as and when it's needed. A little bit of counter punch and a very cheap model with hold and objective. I also have a 1,000 Suns Demon Prince and a squad of 20 Rubik Marines with a Soul Reaper cannon and a squad of 10 with a Soul Reaper cannon. Didn't necessarily want the Soul Reapers in the list, it's just the models I had and I wanted to sort of maximise all of the rubrics. So that'll be interesting. I'm starting with 20 of the pinks in reserve, in Deep Strikes I've used the Denizens of the Warp stratagem on them, and then I've just put the two spawn into sort of standard reserves. The Laws of Change, I won't go into all the psychic powers now, but I'll document them down for you. One of them has the classic combination of the Impossible Robe and the -1 damage Warlord trait to make him sort of nigh unkillable. And I should say that I've exalted both Laws of Change in the list as well. So on one of them, I gained Spell Thief and I can't remember what it's called now, the one that gives you +1 mortal wound whenever you cause a mortal wound. It's never bad. Spell Thief in this game could be really interesting because the Slaanesh do have some really good spells. And on the other one, I got Nexus of Fate. So that's the one where you get a command point if you roll a 1 or a 6. And I also rolled the one which is -1 to hit in the shooting phase. Bit of a downer in this game because the only shooting I've got in my whole Slaanesh list is some whips. If I had rolled that normally, I'd probably be quite happy. But yeah, in this game, not so much. But I didn't really want to just choose. I like to sort of keep it more interesting by rolling for it. On the Slaanesh side then, I've had to sort of mess around with my detachments to make this work a little bit, but what I've got at the moment is two Exalted Keeps of Secrets. Again, I rolled for their traits, and I got the Forpinvon on both of them, which is fantastic. And then on the other trait, one of them gained Battle Rapture, so that's the one where you can heroically intervene 6 and consolidate 3 + D3, and the other one gained Fear Seeker. So this is quite interesting, and again, it's not the kind of thing that's ever come up before, but it's if a unit anyone on the battlefield fails morale, then that model can then immediately move. Your model can immediately move as if it were the movement phase, but has to end closer towards that unit. So it could be really helpful, unless obviously the unit failing morale is right next to you. I've also got Shalaxi Hellbane. So last time in the game that you didn't see, she performed really, really well. So that's great. I should say that 2 of them have a whip, so syll'esske, and one of the keepers has the whip, and the other one has the hand, and that was purely for points. I normally do prefer to use the shields, but I have heard a lot about the whips, so I've actually upgraded one with the relic whip as well. For the rest of the list, I've got Control of the Epitome, always great. The +1 to its ability to cast and deny is going to be very big in this game. Obviously, its ability to stop people falling back is always going to be great. I've got syll'esske, again, always good, absolute blender. Sort of does the combination of the Demon Prince and the Herald, which I really like as well. Obviously, I've not structured this in the way that the detachments are structured. I've got a total of 2 squads of 10 demonettes and a squad of 20 demonettes with the instrument. And I have got my 12 fiends, so 3 squads of 4. Always a big fan of those. Again, anything to stop things from falling back is good. And also they have the -1 to cast Psychic Power debuff, which is really, really great and certainly be helpful in this game. But I'm more in it for the speed, and I'm more in it for the stopping them from falling back. And then lastly, and this is a new addition, I've actually got 10 Furies in the list. So this is something I've seen a lot about on the internet, so I thought, you know what, I'd try it myself. And what that means is, so they're just five models, one-wing models for 45 points, but they have the infantry keyword, which means they can do things like deploy scramblers, which is great. And they also fly, so that means that they are sort of moving there 12 inches, and because they're Marcus Slaanesh, they can also move advanced in charge if you ever needed to, just to get that extra bit of movement to be in all the corners or anything like that. So I think in terms of making a list that works for secondaries, I think they're really, really great. To allow them to fit in, I've had to drop 2 of the Shining AGs and a squad of Demonettes. So we'll see how that works in the game and whether or not we think that was worth doing. But I think in terms of from a list design point of view, I think that they are a really great tool. And to be honest, I would consider them having some Mark of Tzeentch ones in the Tzeentch list as well, if I had some more. Those are the lists. 2 exalted keepers, 2 exalted laws of change, demon princes. We've got syll'esske, we've got Control of the Epitome, we've got all the good stuff. So yeah, let's see how we get on. I'm excited. I genuinely don't know how the game's going to go. I've asked a few people. Obviously, Slaanesh are pulling in the results at the moment, so people tend to have been saying that they're expecting kind of a narrow win. But some others, again, the Tzeentch have some really, really good horde clearing capability with all those pinks and all those rubrics. But do they have the ability to deal with things that are really going to cause them trouble? I don't know. But as always, the game's going to be on objective, so it's who can hold them and it's who can score their secondaries as well. So yeah. The mission I'm going to be playing today is from the Grand Tournament Mission Pack 2020, and it's going to be Scorched Earth. This is an interesting mission in which it's progressive, so you get 5 points per objective for 1 and 2, and then 5 more points if you try to more than your opponent. The secondary mission is one called Raise, in which you can use an action to destroy, effectively, an objective, and then it's removed from the battlefield. So you get sort of 6 points for 1, and it scales up as you take more. I'm not sure how I feel about the secondary. I did think about it, particularly for the Slaanesh. Obviously, they have the speed to get into the corners. But the Tzeentch list does have a lot of bodies, so you can only raise an objective when there's nothing within engagement range of it, and that could be quite difficult to do. So for secondaries, the Tzeentch army has taken Engage All Fronts, it has taken Mental Interrogation, and it has taken Whilst We Stand We Fight, and that's going to be on the big 2 Laws of Change and the big squad of rubrics. Obviously, the rules have changed on that slightly now, so that it has biggest unit, not so much biggest model, which it kind of was before. Slaanesh are taking Engage All Fronts as well. They're also taking Whilst We Stand We Fight, and that will be on 2 of the Keepers and Syll'esske Hellbane. And then they have also taken Deploy Scramblers, so another action-based secondary, which I'm not usually that keen on. However, this list has been a little bit more designed to be able to do that, and we'll sort of come on to that in a second. The reason why I've taken the secretaries that I have, so we're starting with Engage. Both armies are quite quick, and the ones, I guess, the Slaanesh are very quick. The Tzeentch aren't exactly slow either. They've got a lot of flying models in that, and kind of the teleporting powers, so that should be doable on both sides. Mental Interrogation, obviously, I do have a bit of redundancy in characters and in powers, particularly on the Tzeentch side, so it kind of makes sense to be able to use that. Now, in the games that I've played with this before, I've done really well, but I've never really come up against denies before. seeing as most of the games has been against either Necrons or Custodians or something like that. So that's going to be interesting, especially because the Slaanesh do have some negative modifiers to psychic tests and also can deny with bonuses as well. So that will be very, very interesting. On both sides I've taken Whilst We Stand We Fight. It's kind of an interesting list in that I have one quite killy list and one that doesn't really die. So it'll be really interesting to see how that goes. I've decided not to take the mission-specific raise objective just because I don't really feel like it's altogether that great. Okay, so the board is set. The armies are deployed. I apologise for the grey plastic. I have painted about 1,500 points of Slaanesh in about a month and a bit, so I'm pretty pleased, but not quite finished yet. But now comes the all-important, probably not actually that important, turn 1, who goes first, roll off. So I've got a 1,000 Suns dice and a black dice in my hand. The 1,000 Suns dice will represent the Tzeentch and the 1,000 Suns. And then we will see who's going to go first. So it's going to just be a flat roll off now. And they both roll a 1, so that's a great start, isn't it? This is how this game's going to go. Let's try again. A 4, so the Slaanesh will go first. How do I feel about that? In this game, I probably would have chosen to go second, just because if you see the perspective that I have here, when I deployed everything, because I had so many fewer units on the Slaanesh side, more units, I was sort of able to deploy relatively far back. So I know nothing apart from sort of a teleporting thing is going to get really in much range turn 1. So yeah, obviously the rules have changed now, so I have to go first, but I maybe wouldn't have before. I don't think I can really do anything to the Tzeentch and 1,000 Suns this turn, but we will see after moving what we can do. Alright, so end of the turn for Slaanesh, incredibly uneventful. Basically everything has moved up, but I've had to do it quite cautiously because I knew I couldn't make the charges. So I've just tried to set myself up for a nice counter charge. Obviously it does leave me a little bit exposed. The only psychic power that I could do, I managed to get off, was Delightful Agonies, so I've put that onto this keeper over here, predominantly because in range of those pink horrors there. The rubrics do have the ability to shoot down here and cause some wounds as well. However, I felt like the pinks have such a high volume of shots and can be buffed quite significantly. So it will come down to see. I should have mentioned before, all the sort of terrain is sort of standard ruins that you can see. However, in the middle there, what I've done is not made that middle obscuring. Obviously, if you're lower than it, like those fiends are, then you would be obscured. But I just a minus one to hit over the top using the smoke as well, just to make it a little bit more interesting as well. I have decided to deploy my scramblers in my own deployment zone over here with these demonettes. It sort of just made sense to do that, seeing as they couldn't do anything else. And I've just tried to move on to a couple of objectives, just to make sure in my primary phase I'm going to be at least holding 2, and we'll see if the 1,000 Suns can do any better. So we're going to have their turn next. I will come back with any sort of interesting rolls, but yeah, otherwise it's going to be 1,000 Suns and Tzeentch coming up next. Okay, so the Tzeentch have moved up, and they've also had their psychic phase. It was a pretty good psychic phase actually. Most of the powers went off apart from warp time, which was a shame. The Lord of Change here, with the bonus to his mortal wounds, managed to kill 2 fiends from this section in here. These rubrics got powered up with Glamour of Tzeentch and Weaver of Fates. The guys over here, I cast Gaze of Fate with this one, and then spent CP to do Flickering Flames as well. And the Flickering Flames will give +1 to wounds. So they obviously rolled quite well for their advance. They rolled a 6. And speaking of 6s, I also rolled a 6 to gain a command point back, thanks to the Lord of Change there as well. Haven't been able to score Mental Interrogation on this turn. This one here is very close to being in range, but wasn't quite. This one here could have moved across, but would have left me directly open to be assaulted by 2 keepers there, which would be less than ideal. So I'm going to come back after the shooting phase and give you a rundown of how that went. What I'm planning to do is the pinks will just try and take a few wounds off of the keeper over there with Delightful Agonies. These rubrics here, they can't see a huge amount, so they'll be kind of mixing their shots, the ones that can shoot, into the fiends there, or maybe even into the keeper back there if they can see. And then similarly, these, we'll try and shoot those ones. One of those to take a wing from a baby smite from the Thousand Suns as well. So not going to get engaged this turn on, so neither side will get engaged. Obviously, I don't want to throw away my big units yet for my whilst we stand we fight, so I've had to be a bit cagey with those. So it's just really going to come down to whether or not the Tzeentch can hold off the Slaanesh for long enough, really. So it should be interesting. We'll come back after the shooting phase. Okay, so that is the end of the Thousand Suns and Tzeentch overall turn. It was very disappointing. So the pinks moved up and they only put 2 wounds onto the keeper. I did warp surge him, which cost me 2 CP in anticipation of doing a lot more damage. It just didn't. Even when the Demon Prince is there to give them the reroll 1s and their +1 strength and +1 to wounds, and it still just didn't do very much. It was just a really bad wound roll followed by a reasonably good saving throw. And then a couple more fiends died, but again, not a huge amount else. It's been the whole turn really on both sides. It's been more about powering up for the next turn. So that should be quite interesting. In terms of secondaries, neither army scored anything so far. But primaries wise is going to be both will score at the current state, the 10 points. But we'll see what happens after the movement phase for the Slaanesh in going into turn 2. Okay, so another pretty strong psychic phase actually, in which I was able to cast Delightful Agonies from SECONDARIES back onto the keeper there. The Lord of Change with Spell Thief failed both attempts to deny powers. However, one was only a smite, so no big deal there. Over here, this keeper went quite big, doing Phantasmagoria and then a smite on those rubrics and did 3 mortal wounds. And we came back to Syll'esske here, who only really had what it's called now, Cacophonic Choir. It's the one that does roll a 6 for every model in the unit, and that took on a 6 take of mortal wounds, and that took another 3. So as you can see, I've moved quite aggressively up here, and really, if I can lock this turn down, that will be a strong position to be in, because I'll be in all the quarters, which I kind of already am at the moment, so I don't die. And then we can see if we can start to score some secondaries. Obviously, the Thousand Suns do have some tricks to fall back out of combat, and I can obviously smite or do any psychic powers to the Slaanesh to sort of free myself up. We're going to go into the shooting phase now, but the only shooting are on these 2 guys with their whips, and the Thousand Suns there are now out of range, so there'll be no shooting phase. So straight into the charge phase, and I'm going to start over here. I'm not going to film it because it's going to be a lot of dice, but I will spend the CP to Overwatch, no matter what's coming into those guys, to try and free them up. So I'll have a think about that, but that's going to be the main one, I think. Okay, so at the end of the charge phase, I did roll Overwatch with the pinks there, and they're 90 shots. Got 21 6s, which is pretty good. However, only managed to get 2 wounds through after everything, including Delightful Agonies. Slaanesh also went in. I did roll a double 1 for his charge, where I CP re-rolled it, and then the Demonettes got in. I've sort of tried to fan them out a little bit as well, just to sort of deny any deep striking. However, there could be some opportunities for some of the smaller squads. What was also interesting is that I charged the Fiends into those rubrics over there. Just want to sort of tie them up, so give the Tzeentch a little bit more to think about. And then again, I rolled a double 1 on the charge for the Keeper with the red sword over there. One with the Relic Whip that I've not been able to just quite enter range yet. So that one's kind of stuck out in the open now. There's a big mash of combat here. It's going to be quite interesting because I've never used a big blob of Demonettes in combat yet. And also SECONDARIES with his 2 attacking profiles. So I need to think quite carefully about how I actually, the order in which I choose these guys to fight. But I'm not expecting a huge amount of pinks left after this. So it should be really, really interesting to see how we roll up against it. Obviously, a lot of 4-up inbound saves. This sort of guarantees that I'm going to get engage on all fronts this turn to the maximum amount of points. I should say as well that those Fiends over there in the back corner also failed their charge. So they are out in the open. So those rubrics may just pick them up in the next turn, because obviously they can double shoot if they stay still, if that's what they want to do. So yeah, we're going to have the combat. We'll come back and then we'll see where we are with points. Alright, we are back after what was an absolutely brutal combat phase from both sides. I wish I'd filmed it now. I didn't think it'd be as interesting as it was. SECONDARIES, having used him in combat for the first time, absolutely outrageous amount of attacks. And he obviously fights twice, so he uses both profiles each time. I tried to then withdraw the pinks in such a way that the demonettes couldn't reach them, but I couldn't quite do it. But I was able to stop it from the keeper being able to fight there. So they will have to take a morale on the off chance that they pass it. Then they can potentially get some back, but maybe just slow the units down there a little bit. The Fiends went into the rubrics, killed a couple, but they're actually killed in return. So I did use Veterans of the Long War on them because I really wanted them gone. And actually that leaves that keeper there open up to quite a big volley of shooting now. Those rubrics have lost quite a few. I think I'm down to 13, so there's no way I'm going to not also pass them in my turn. So I might as well do it on camera now, which is just to roll the morale for those pinks. So on a 1, I'll get some back, which would be great because I really need them. Anything else is going to be bad. Okay, so it's a 3, so they do fail. So 1 will go, which leaves 4 left. Might as well roll this on camera as well. So 1s and 2s. Basically, I just don't want any 1s and 2s here. Oh, wow. Okay, so that leaves 1 pink left. So that's 1 gone from the group there, from failing, and then 3 more gone from the worsened combat attrition. So the squad is almost entirely gone. So I have to think now if there's anything I can do with 1 pink horror, potentially just to cause a roadblock or something like that in the turn. So yeah, that was quite interesting. So points-wise, I will get engage this turn on all 4 corners, but I am sort of lacking in the others. I didn't do any deploy scramblers this turn. I just didn't feel like the turn to do that in. However, obviously I do have some demonettes available to do that with, but it does give me a slightly strong position on the primary now because I don't believe, mind you, if I leave that 1 pink there, I'll have to measure up and see if the demonettes are in range. If they aren't, then I won't be holding that objective with them. So yeah, we'll come back, but it's looking quite strong for SNES. However, I think there could be a big turn coming up now in retaliation because everything is now in range, and obviously have the pinks to drop in and the spawn as well. So yeah, we're going to see how this goes. Okay, so this feels like a big turn for the Tzeentch. So let me talk you through what I've done. I've moved this Lord of Change over here just to try and move things away from the side and potentially to get a charge on that keeper. I also wanted him closest for the purposes of smite. And similarly, I've got the Magister over here as well. So that's backup smite, and also I knew, and I'll just spoil this now, I knew I was going to drop the pinks in. I knew I'd sort of spotted a gap there, and that would be good for sort of clearing out those demonettes now. That's really what they're for, is just really good hordes. And that leaves this back corner then quite susceptible, I suppose. Over there, the Demon Prince and the, I should say, the pink horror alone was not enough to hold that objective. The demonettes are in range of it, so I was only able to score the 5 points on the primary. Demon Prince and the Lord Change have moved up to deal with that keeper that's suddenly been left in the open. Around the side of the board here, I've managed to just bring those rubrics in a little bit closer. My intention is to double shoot those ones there into the keeper, because they will have the buffs of the Demon Prince rerolls, and I'll probably veterans them as well. And these guys here hopefully will clear out most of those fiends and potentially can charge them as well and just take them off of that objective if nothing else. You'll see I brought a lovely spawn into this corner, just 6 inches from the edge. It's round 2, so I can do that, but not on my opponent's battlefield edge, but this is not or in their deployment zone, so he is comfortably there, which gives me 2 units, at least 1 unit in each quarter, so that will give me the maximum engage this turn. I also need to do mental interrogation. Obviously I've got the psychers to do that, and then obviously keep those big squad of rubrics alive, and the chicken as well, the 2 chickens. So we'll see how we get on. I'll come back to you in a little bit. Well, I said that it was a big turn, and if the Thousand Suns could come back, it was probably going to be then. A quick rundown of what happened. Firstly, apologies, I forgot that this keeper is the one who has the Fear Seeker rule, which meant that he was able to move when those pinks failed their morale check. Upon reflection, I felt it was unfair to move him, so I don't know what I'd have done. However, he also regains a wound for every model that ran away, so he regained 3 wounds for that. Which was interesting, because then the Lord of Change here did a Mega Smite on him, but it was after that I realised, and it basically put him back down to the same wounds as before. So Didn't really change much over there. I did fail to mentally interrogate as well, so I tried to do with this guy here. He doesn't get any bonuses, and it was just denied. So yeah, that's a 3-point swing that I probably should have just sucked it up on all the change to do. But never mind. Over here, however, this keeper, I'm counting up on the wounds because it's kind of easier as I'm doing it with one hand. He lost 10 wounds, so that's a mega smite, a bolt of change. Remember, this chicken here does the +1 mortal wound each time. I am within 12 of the fiends, but it just did make a difference on the rolls. Obviously, they get their natural +2 anyway. Other than that, I did fail to get any powers to protect the rubrics or the demon prince, so really have to deal with at least one of these keepers this turn. However, seeing as I've only got 6 wounds left, does feel quite doable with what I've got left there to do. Other than that, one small mortal wound over there. So we're going to have a shooting phase now. It's going to be a little bit more relevant than the last ones. Predominantly, it's going to be these pinks targeting those demonettes. That's just to sort of free up targeting everything else, and also just to eliminate a load of bodies on the board, and then they can focus more on this side. Other than that, it's going to be the rubrics double shooting into this keeper here, and those rubrics shooting into those fiends over there as well. So if all goes well and that happens, it should be a really good turn for the Thousand Suns. I'm annoyed about the fact that I didn't get mental interrogation. It feels like a bit of a bad choice now in this game, but you know, we live and learn, and that's why I'm playing this game now. But we'll come back and sort of see what damage that does. Okay, wow, that was so terrible. So, what happened? Killed 8 demonettes with the pinks. I was expecting a lot more than that. Come over here to shoot at the keeper here. Took 2 wounds of it, so I'm counting down now, it's just easier. So it took 2 wounds out of basically 40 shots, plus the Soul Reaper cannon. These guys all shot into the Fiend's End in 1 wound. A few did go through, but I rolled lots of 5s. Just realising now, as I say this, I forgot to fire the Soul Reaper cannon, so let's do that live, because that could finish off Fiend. Looking for 3s. Oh god. And then looking for 3s again. It does wound it. Does it save it? No. Okay, so 1 more Fiend, that grey one up front, will be killed. And then we're going to be in the charge phase, so not particularly strong. However, still feel like I've got the tools this turn to sort of make a really good dig my heels in. Those fiends there are going to be the issue now, I think. Again, I still have some ways to get around them, but I was hoping to clear them off of that objective to sort of even things out a little bit. As it stands, they're going to be holding a lot of objectives, so we'll see what we can do. I may even have to charge them and just hope for the best, because otherwise I'm going to be charged anyway in my turn. So we'll see. But yeah, we're going to do the charge phase and then we'll be back. Okay, so that's the end of the charge phase. And normally I wouldn't have just shown you this, but I think it's quite interesting. So what I've been able to do is I've just piled everything into this keeper here. I've only got 4 wounds left, so I want to kill that, finish it off. I have decided to charge the rubrics there. There's 8 wounds I need to get through, but I do have the 4th stave, which is multi-damage weapon. But what I've done is I've sort of given up a point in the game, because I've decided to charge these demonettes, and that was just to sort of hold this objective and also consolidate this section of the board. But in doing so, what I've done is I've decided I can block off the keeper there from being able to get to Lord of Change next turn, and that's important. So it's a 1-point swing because I'm now not wholly within this quarter at all this turn. Obviously I had to take the heroic intervention from the keeper. I was comfortable with that. I did stay out of the one from SECONDARIES because I knew that he would just mince them like he did last time. But really it's just a play to sort of block off that keeper from being able to get to Lord of Change next turn. He doesn't have fly or anything like that. Can't pass over models. So if I kill a load of demonettes, then great. Obviously I do expect to lose some pinks in return, either from those demonettes. I'm not going to get a huge amount of attacks on them because I can't consolidate that much further around. But again, the keeper's really good in combat, but only against things that are worth sort of the multi-damage attacks. So we're going to start. Where are we going to start? We'll probably start in that combo over there, maybe with the Demon Prince, because if I'm going to interrupt anywhere, it's going to be there with that keeper. So let's come back with the Demon Prince attacks. In fact, let's just roll it. So if I just grab some dice, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's 8 dice because he has the Malefic Talons, 2 sets of, and also made a charge this turn. So let's just see if we can get 4 through. So hitting on 2s, re-rolling my 1s because I'm a Demon Prince. So they all hit. Strength 7, so we're winning on 4s. Doesn't look great, does it? So I've got just 3. Would I CP one of those? No, I don't think so. So 4 up saves, 4 up invuln saves. Well, Keeper makes them all anyway, so wouldn't have made much difference there because I couldn't have actually killed him. I will spend the 2 CP to interrupt, and I might as well do that live as well. So this Lord of Change here, so this is the one that is the minus, the 3 up invuln and the -1 damage. Obviously if I kill him I get more points. The Demon Prince is no longer a threat this turn, but the rubrics are also a unit that I do need to wipe out for whilst we stand we fight. So I'm going to put my attacks into them because that'll put them onto their invuln save and potentially wipe the squad if I get very, very lucky. So let's do that live as well. Okay, so my Keeper is in its lowest bracket now, so he will try and attack, and I've changed my mind. I'm going to attack the Demon Prince just because it's a more valuable model potentially to get rid of this turn, but we'll see how we get on with that. So because of the reduced number of attacks, if I had the full amount of attacks I probably would have gone to the rubrics, but I figure my 3 damage attacks going to them is a bit wasteful, so let's do it into the Demon Prince instead. So 4 attack space with my my sword now. They all hit, and I'm strength 8, so we're winning on 3s. We're rolling any 1s, don't have any 1s. So my Demon Prince then, he will be needing 4 up invuln saves. Each one failed is flat 3 damage. Everybody's rolling hot right now, so no damage taken there. And then 2 with my snapping claws. They both hit, and strength 6, winning on 4s. We roll on my 1s because of my precision special rule. So 1 goes through. Does it get saved? It does. Okay, so that was very, very uneventful. Let's just do, whilst we're still here, let's do the Lord of Change next as the charging unit. I can't interrupt again. So 4 attacks, hitting on 2s. We're running 1s next to my Demon Prince. And then I am strength with the staff, strength 7. So 4s, no, terrible. -1 makes a difference. 4 plus invuln save, which I make again. Oh, this is quite the combat that's not going to end. Let's just pile in some rubrics here. Just won't get a huge amount of them in, but nonetheless, as we're here, we might as well film it. So I did charge. We do get the bonus attack. So let's do the staff first because this is the one that's sort of of value. So that'll be 3 attacks now because of the charge. 1 hit. Strength 6, so winning on 5s. Doesn't wound, and I've got 3 others there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 attacks. They are -1 to hit in combat, actually. I should have been doing that. So obviously it's made no difference so far. And then 5s. Okay, so my plan of being absolutely certain to get rid of that Keeper of Secrets this turn with all of that shooting, all of that psychic, and all of that attacks has absolutely failed miserably. So we're going to continue. I won't film the rest of the combat, so I don't think there's a huge amount of other interesting things to happen. But yeah, we'll come back and we'll see where we are with it. Okay, so at the end of that fairly atrocious combat phase, the pinks did kill a number of demonettes. I think it was 3. That included some running away as well, so not a huge amount of effectiveness there. Obviously, some of the pinks were killed in retaliation, but the move to keep the Lord of Change alive will last me for at least 1 more turn. Still can't believe what happened over there. So to sort of conclude, I guess, not a high-scoring turn again, but I do feel like the momentum has swung a little bit in favour of the Tzeentch in this turn. Overall, I'm still not sure. I still have a little bit to come in after 10 Furies on the Tzeentch side, but obviously the 1 more spawn over there. I didn't think I said what happened over here, so I did kill 1 of the Fiends and got another one down to 2 wounds, which is not ideal, but I am holding that objective with the Tzeentch now, so that's positive. If I can be in that position in the next turn, we will see. So we're going to go into Slaanesh turn 3, and really it's the consolidation now to try and continue to try and score some points. So obviously we still have whilst we stand we fight. Unbelievably that Keeper is still alive, so I need to try and do something there to keep that going if I can. Still want to be engaging which I think should be fine. And then, yeah, we're going to just see what else we can do. For primaries wise, I will be holding one over here, another one there, so it will just be the 2. It will not be more than my opponent, so it just 10 on that one as well. There we are. Okay, so we'll come back after some movement. Alright, so the movement phase is done. We're going to move into the psychic phase in a minute. Again, not something I'd normally share in one of these short form reports, but quite interesting nonetheless. What I've done with the intention of sort of next turn in mind is move these fiends up. If I can chew through some of those pinks, then so be it. So that's good. And ideally like to stop them from being able to fall back, because that would then allow them to get into this quarter. So that would be good. I've also brought the epitome over here. So that is with the intention of the improved denies. So maybe to try and stop anything from that order change going off. But also for the forbidden gem. So that will be quite powerful if I can get it to go off. My plan is to charge the fiends into the pinks, consolidate round into the, or within a range of the Lord of Change, and there's a strap to give your opponent -2 to their leadership. I need to check if that works all the time before I do that, or if it's just in the morale phase. If it's just in the morale phase, I won't bother with it, but it would make that forbidden gem a little bit easier because they are leadership 10. I've left that keeper in combat over there. There just didn't really feel like much to do. If I fell back, I didn't need to be in that quarter or anything like that, and then I couldn't do any psychic powers or anything like that, so I kept him there. And I have got the brimstones over there being charged down by SECONDARIES. He's ever so slightly close to the pink horror, so if I can smite him, I can then put all of my attacks to the brims, clear them off of that objective. Over here, you'll see I've decided to leave this keeper in combat. I mean, he will strike, or she, or it will strike first. So depending on where I want to put those attacks, that will be relevant. I also have the Whip of Agony on that, which can still be fired in combat. So it'd be interesting to see that as well. Syll'eske's moved across here to try and deal with these rubrics, just because otherwise they'll hold that objective in the turn. And then last but not least, I brought in the Furies at the back there. That works on 2 levels, because that's going to be engaged for all 4 quarters. They're also going to be able to deploy Scramblers. So feeling quite good about my secondaries this turn. I'm just wondering if we're going to do any damage. So yeah, we're going to go into the psychic phase now, and we'll come back just after that. Okay, again, a very mixed psychic phase there. The interesting stuff happened over this side. So I did do a Mega Smite again, which the Lord Change failed to deny from the Contorted Epitome. So that took out 6 pink horrors, which was very, very good. However, then I tried to cast Symphony of Pain on them as well, and then the Lord Change did deny that, and because he is a spell thief, I no longer know Symphony of Pain with that model now. Over there I failed to be able to get the smite on the pink horror, and this keeper here was also denied with whatever I was trying to do. I can't remember now. This keeper here, I actually forgot knows Hysterical Frenzy, which would have been great to get an extra fight face out of him before he is inevitably killed this turn. However, that failed to go off. In fact, it was denied by this Lord of Change. And then over here, I was able to do a Delightful Agonies onto the keeper, but then I think I also tried a smite, which was denied. So again, the momentum, points-wise, feels like it's still with Slaanesh, but it feels a bit like a sort of house of cards that could sort of fall down quite quickly. My intention now is obviously in the shooting phase, I don't really have anything. That keeper will fire his whip, and Syll'eske will fire their whip. Because what's interesting about those is they can fire into combats that they're also not in. And similarly with SECONDARIES over there, I will do the same thing. And then after that will be the charges. So I'll just go over that now, what my intention is. It will be to go in here with the keeper here. It will be to stay in combat there, of course. It will be over here to send all of the fiends in. I've checked the wording on that stratagem, and unfortunately it only works in the morale phase, so I don't need to pile around into the Lord of Change now. But if I can just sort of keep him from being able to fall back or anything like that, then that's still fine. And then move the Epitome in as well. So he doesn't have to, he or she doesn't have to be in range. It just has to be within 6 inches for that ability to go off. So the fiends don't stop fly units from falling back, so I need to get the Epitome around there if that's going to happen, which feels unlikely. But any sort of damage that we can do really doesn't, it feels kind of stilted this turn. But luckily, I guess in the ongoing combats, I have the ability to fight first. So yeah, we're going to see how that goes. Okay, so quite an interesting shooting phase with the whips. So I was able to kill the one pink horror there with that whip. I was actually able to take 6 wounds off of the demon prince with the relic whip over there, which is nice. And lastly, with the river marines over there, I killed 1 with the whip from Slaanesh. Charges, they sort of all went as I expected. So I charged the fiends in, the epitome in. So the fiends went into the big bird and the pinks. The idea behind charging the Lord of Change was not to make it so it couldn't fall back, but you cannot now cast psychic powers if you do fall back. So it just felt like a strategic move to keep him there, which means he's then not coming into my section of the board, which is preferable. Obviously, I do expect Slaanesh to pick up those brimstones. I do imagine that most of the pinks will be gone after this. I don't know if I said before, but I did perils with this keeper here, so I'm down to 1 wound, so that combat's going to be quite quick. And then obviously I've charged in over here as well. So that should be interesting. I'm going to roll some of them on camera because I think some of them are reasonably interesting. But I won't roll some of them, so I'm not going to roll Slaanesh. I'm fairly confident with his 30 odd attacks he's going to take those guys up. But I will roll for this combat here, because I've never used the epitome before in combat, so it's nice to capture that on camera. So we've got 8 attacks with its tentacles. That one's re-rollable. Is it? No, it's not. I'm too far away from Slaanesh for that. So they're moving that one there, cheating the game. And then I will be wounding on 3s. Yeah, so they all wound. And I saved 2 of them, so that is 5 killed. I must have lost the die. Oh no, I did drop one, didn't I? So that's 5 of those gone. So if we just take, that's where we take from. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's just not worry too much because I think they're all going to be gone. At that point then I would pile them with the fiends, and then they can do their 20 attacks. That's 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 11, 15, 20 attacks. So they get 4 attacks each unless they're a Blissbringer. None of these are. I'm just going to attack all with the claws. So look for 3s there, not rolling my 1s. So I'm doing probably terrible camera work here. And again, I am strength 5 now, so looking for within 3s anyway. Good roll there. So just trying to clean up these horrors as the charging units. So yeah, they are all dead because they are all failed saves. I guess I'm doing this a bit out of order because what I will do next is obviously I had to start with a charging unit, so those pinks are now gone. But I definitely will spend the 2 CP on the Tzeentch side to interrupt over there with the Demon Prince, just to try and take the 1 wound necessary off of that keeper to stop him from fighting. So let's just do that live again. So I was not charged this turn, so I don't get the extra attack. So 5, 6, just the 7 attacks. So let's come around so we can see what we're doing a little bit more. So yeah, 2 CP for this. We roll my 1s. 6, good roll there. Winning on 4s. Again, pretty good. And then, do I save them? Oh, I only fail 1, so I have to CP it, just in case he stays alive. Feels like it has to be done. So I'll CP this one. I do stay alive. So the ongoing combat continues, and we'll come back after sort of, and you know what, let's do this one live as well. So I want to kill that Demon Prince. Let's just do that at the same time. He's only got 2 wounds left. So my 4 attacks, I'm going to put them all into him because I know how hard Demon Princes can be to kill. Having said that, yeah, it's Tzeentch turn next turn. So let's put the attacks into him, try and finish him off. So 4 attacks, not rolling 1s to hit. Winning on 3s. And then wounding on. So that it was. Is that my wounds? Yeah. So then 4 pin bombs. Yeah. So he dies Would I CP it on that turn? I would. However, I believe I am out of CP. Let me just double check that. So guys, doing this dreadfully out of phase. I'm need a bit more practice at this. So yeah, I didn't have the CP left to reroll that, so the Demon Prince just dies. I should have been doing my next charges, so I'm going to go over here. So this is going to be the 6 attacks from Slaanesh Spear. You get 5 hits, and it's winning on 2s this time. I do reroll my 1s, thankfully. So they all wound at -4, I believe. So there'll be 5 pinfall saves, a d6 damage each, so no benefit or anything like that. So 3 die from that, so that's 3 killed, and then I'll do my snapping claws at the same time. Full bracket, so 6 attacks. So again, drop 1 there, and strength 6, so we're on 3s. And again, I reroll my 1s, thanks to my delicate precision. So 3 so far, these ones are also at -3. So another 3, so 6 will die in that combat there. I'm not going to show you SECONDARIES over there, but I will come back in a second once I've counted out the dice for that combat over here. Okay, so it is time for the greater demons to fight one another. The Tzeentch Lord of Change is going to attack. I should have said, and I don't know if I have it to this point, but the Warlord trait I've taken is the Bewitching Aura, which is the -1 attacks, which would be great, except it's on that one over there. So that hasn't really come up very many times, but it's something to consider. So I'm going to start with Lord of Change, so hitting on 2s, and then wounding on 3s, 4s. They'll go through. These are flat 3 damage each, so I need to make all 4. I don't, so he is killed. So in the grand scheme of things, in the great game, it's 1-0 to Tzeentch now. And that is big because that stops me from getting 5 points later in while we stand we fight. So quite big there. However, I feel like that keeper absorbed far more than it should have. The 4 Pinvon goes a very, very long way. So yeah, I'm going to do a little bit of a fight back in the other bits over here, but we'll come back at the end of the turn. Okay, so that is the end of the turn for Slaanesh. The only other thing that really happened was the rubrics over there and the Fiend. So the Fiend is gone. There is 1 rubric left on that objective, and that is after morale. So that's important because he will still continue to hold that objective, which actually means quite a lot because I'm still holding 2 now because SECONDARIES obviously did get rid of all those Brimstone Horrors. So that is the end of the turn. It's actually still very close. I will get the extra points for engageable fronts now. So the Furies working wonders back in the corner there. And obviously I've got plenty, all the others as well. In terms of how the Tzeentch are going to try and perform next, so they really do have to get the mental interrogation off. So that might have to be over here with this Lord of Change. I can still plan to get engaged on all fronts. It's going to be a little tougher now because I don't have the pinks, so I've got no real screening for these characters. So I obviously have the 1 more Chaos Spawn to bring in, which I can do, but trying to get rid of these units here is going to be tough because I can't fall back and shoot there. In fact, that makes me think I haven't actually attacked with that Lord of Change yet, so let's just do that now. So I would have 4 attacks, but as I've mentioned in the past video, I'm -1 attack because I'm within 6 inches of that keeper there, who has the Bewitching Aura. So I'm going to put all of my attacks into these Fiends. 2 of them miss. It does wound because it is strength 8. 9 with the Herald. Do I make it save? I do. So you know what, the Dice Gods giveth and they taketh away. So yeah, mental interrogation is going to be important. I can do it over here, but obviously I'm -1 to cast because of the Fiend, and then the Epitome has the +1 to deny, so that makes it quite a lot tougher. And then at the same time, can't do anything else. So it's kind of tempted to do it with him, but if I don't get any points for this turn, then that's 6 points that's cost me. Over on that side feels a bit safer. Starting to regret that choice, but we never learn. That's why we play these test games against ourselves. So yeah, we'll come back after the Tzeentch turn. Okay, so we are back after the Tzeentch movement phase. So what I've done and my plan. Tzeentch always has a plan. So I'm gonna come forward here with this Lord of Change here and that's mostly to just slow this keeper up. So this is the one with -1 damage and 3 up invuln. Now the -1 damage isn't going to make much difference because she actually does flat 6 to a Lord of Change or any character. But the 3 up invuln will hopefully stop most of those from coming through. The rubrics, I really toy with the ideas of moving them around. However, they stay still. They can double shoot, and they're in range of both syll'esske and that keeper, so it can potentially do some hurt there. I forgot to say, if I didn't already, that I will be trying to mentally interrogate over here, try and get some points coming in. Other than that, not a huge amount of movement this turn. Not a huge amount left, to be totally honest with you. The Herald over here moved. But that was just to be in engage for this turn, for this quarter over here. Wanting to stay reasonably far away from the demonettes if I can. So yeah, I mean, the tough part now is knowing how to deal with this situation. I know I can't fall back, and I know that keeper will heroically intervene. So that makes that Lord of Change in a difficult position. So if I can use those rubrics to bracket it or take some damage or something, it will help a lot. I don't have the CP to Warp Surge. I've only got 1 left, and I'm going to be using that to double fire with the rubrics. I hope that's the right decision. It's either that or maybe a veterans on them for that shooting phase, but I'd rather shoot twice than get +1 to wound. So we're going to come back after the psychic phase. If there's nothing notable, we'll go straight into the shooting phase and come back after that. Okay, so after the psychic phase, not huge. I did get mental interrogation off, and it did not get denied. I actually rolled an 11, so it turned into a mega cast, so which means you just couldn't deny it because of the +2. And then down here, mixed success. So I was able to do a smite, and that took some wounds down from the fiends. Then I had a couple of things denied, and then I came to the Lord of Change, who did an Infernal Gateway, which went off huge with the D6. Unfortunately, I did 1 to a fiend, did 4 to the Epitome, but the Epitome ignores mortal wounds on 2 up. The Demoness took 3, the Keeper here took 4, and the Lord of Change himself also took 4. So quite mixed. But yeah, so we're going to go into shooting next. Like I said, it's just really those rubrics over there. Shooting over here, but we'll see how that goes, and then we'll come back after that. Okay, then shooting phase wrap up. I guess the big thing to note is that this keeper is now gone. So the double shooting rubrics, I was tough. Couldn't really decide if I wanted to keep them still or then decide to try and move them for an advantage or to keep them alive. Obviously, being that syll'esske is here, they sort of are out in the open a tad. Seeing as they are one of the while we stand we fight units. However, their double shooting did get rid of the keeper. Just rolled really, really well on the 5s to wound. Obviously double shooting because they didn't move and they get their benefit of rapid fire. Even with the 4 up invuln, just wasn't quite enough. In fact, I was down. It did come down to the exact number of wounds lost. I did re-roll it with a Slaanesh, but just didn't roll it into a 1, so that didn't really do anything. Celeste took a couple of wounds as well, just because a couple of them weren't in range to shoot with the keeper. In this combat, again, I don't know if I mentioned before, there is still a rubric down there. He used his Warp Flame pistol at syll'esske and did 1 wound. The reason I didn't really fall back with him, I can't remember if I said before, was because I needed to be on that objective at the start of the turn. And then it was just a case of, I know I'm going to bring in the keeper anyway, so sort of no real benefit to that at this point. In hindsight, probably could have moved him, because obviously I scored it at the beginning and I could have fallen back, but again, didn't make too much difference in the scheme of things, and obviously allowed me to do the extra wound by being in combat. So yeah, we're going to have the charge phase now. Not going to be a huge amount of it, it's just going to be over here. So in fact, let's just roll it. Obviously that's not a very big charge. That is going to be enough. So what I'll do is I'll move in and then I will just do the combat. Probably won't film it because there's not a huge amount to do. You know what? Let's just film it. Let's get him in there. So got my 4 attacks. No other charges to declare. So 4 attacks. I am hitting normally on 2s, but syll'esske as a keeper is -1 to hit, so it'll be 3s. Makes a huge difference this time. And I'm also -1 to wound, so I'll be wounding on 5s. I do wound. I have a 5 Pinval save, which I pass. Okay, so Slaanesh takes no damage. She will fight back. The next phase that should happen should be now the ongoing combats, which would be just those fiends over there. I'm not going to film that, but I will film Slaanesh now quickly, just because it's kind of more interesting to see. So let's go with the snapping claws. So 4 attacks, 2s. They all hit, and will be 5s to wound. So it's just the 1 wound. The Lord of Change has a 3-up invuln, which is Impossible Robe. So he does pass that one. For then the Soul Piercer, grab 2 more dice. Choose again. Not rerolling my 1s to hit, which is a shame. But then wounding on 3s. I'm strength 12, so I'm 6 times 2. So not quite 2s yet. So 3s rolling 1s, 2 more 2s. And then 3-up invulns. Okay, so I do fail one of them. That would be a flat 5 damage. Because I have no CP left, I can't re-roll that, so we'll just take 5 damage. So that's quite big. So obviously that takes me down to 11. So yeah, each hit when you're using Slaanesh for 6 damage to a character is really, really big. Each one that goes through. But it does stop sort of Slaanesh from going anywhere really of value in the Slaanesh turn. So we'll do the Fiends. I won't film that one, but we'll sort of come back with an end of turn roundup.
Lee's a silly Billy and apparently forgot to press record, so you'll just have to look at the scoreboard, which shows how close this game is as we move into Slaanesh turn 4.
Okay, so after the Slaanesh movement phase, what I've done is I've brought the Contorted Epitome over here to try and keep that Lord of Change locked into that combat there. I brought these Demonettes across to try and take care of the Tzeentch Change caster there. That does leave me a little bit exposed in the number of objectives to hold. Looking at it at the moment, obviously I got the full 15 this turn, and at the moment, next turn I'm going to be holding just 1, 2. If I can knock off those there, that's it's possible I can then get the objective. It's very unlikely this turn. However, I do feel like it's worth doing just to stop the engagement fronts being scored on that side. I've moved the Furies up, so they need to start scoring my final Deploy Scramblers. And then I've moved Celeste across, so to try and take on these Rubik Marines, they don't have the CP left to Overwatch, so just try and churn through some of those. This turn would be good. That's probably the easiest squad to kill in terms of the whilst we stand we fight points, and obviously having a lot of shooting, sort of doing a good sort of 8 wounds to that last keeper did hurt quite a lot, so they are also a threat. I'm going to go into the Psychic phase now. I'm not going to film that, but I will come back sort of any interesting tidbits, things that have happened, otherwise into the ongoing fights and charges, and a little tiny bit of shooting, I guess, from Slaanesh with his whip and the keeper with the whip as well. Okay, wow, that is the end of the combat phase. Mixed but generally good for the Slaanesh. The Epitome and the Fiends were able to put down a number of wounds onto the Lord Change, so he's taken 10 in total, leaving him 6 left. Those Demonettes were not quite able to kill the Magister on the disc, or the Herald on disc, which is very important for the Tzeentch, because that's really one of their only ways of getting that engagement fronts points now, because that Lord Change is most likely to be trapped in combat, but you never know. Over here, though, it did get quite brutal. So the Slaanesh went absolutely huge. Even with the reducing damage by 1, got 3 of the attacks with the do flat 5 damage go through. 2 of them were not saved, so they did 10 damage, or rather than the 12 they would have been. Left him on 1 wound, and then the claws did the rest. So just really, really brutal. Second game, sort of, I had another test game with Slaanesh as well. Very much an absolute monster in combat, particularly when coming up against characters. I did get rid of the rubric there, so I just put all of the whip shots into the rubric, just to get him off, so now that objective isn't held by them. And then Celeste came in and killed, well, a number of rubrics, only 3 left. Did take a couple of wounds in return, so he's only got a few left. But obviously, seeing as it's Slaanesh, he will get to fight first if the combat continues, if the rubrics don't fall back in any way. So, yes. So what I've done effectively is reduced 5 points from the tally. Those rubrics need to take a morale check, which I'm about to do live on camera. And then that order change kind of feels like he's on his last legs too. So, going to be tough coming into the shows. I'm going to have a good think about what I can do to maximise the points that I can still score. Whether or not I'm going to be able to do enough, I don't know. But we will certainly do our best to try and get some more points. But let's do the leadership on camera. So I lost, I'm going to 3, so I lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I basically will fail this. So yes, I fail it massively. Good thing it's not 8th edition morale. 3, so that's 2 will just 1 will just run away. That leaves 2 1s and 2s. Okay, they're fine, so they stay in combat. So I'm just going to measure that because I might be able to just take those 2 away and then I'm no longer in engagement range, which means whilst I will lose the sorcerer, I will then not have to rely on trying to teleport them out of combat, which I would do with the sorcerer's facade ability if needed. It just means that I don't have that option to do it. So have a think about that and I'll be back in a second. The end of the moving and the psychic phase, in fact. I don't know if I mentioned before the other spawn was hiding in here, so now he's come out to take on these fiends. The Lord of Change was able to fall back despite the being stuck in combat with the contorted epitome. It was able to roll successfully and be able to fall back, so that's quite interesting. Over here, he stayed in combat because I had to cast Mental Interrogation this turn. I fully expect him to die this turn, but I was able to cast it thanks to rolling an 11, which meant even with the -1 from the fiends, which I couldn't get out range of, the epitome wasn't able to deny it either. So unfortunately the big chicken couldn't cast any powers this turn, but I wanted to get out of combat so that I have every chance of trying to survive till the end of the game. And then over there, it felt a bit futile really, but I was able to get off Glamour of Tzeentch onto that rubric there, just in case it might help to keep him alive. That other spawn moved ever so slightly, just so if Syll'esske wants to come this way, she's coming away from the other side of the board where the Tzeentch stuff is, and brings her off an objective. In terms of points this turn, I've scored my 3 for Mental Interrogation. I did have 10 because the spawn was sort of under here for the primary. I will get 3 for Engagement Front. 2 guaranteed. I fully expect this guy to die when the Slaanesh attack him. He did fight back, by the way. He only gets his 2 attacks and then one with the disc. I was really hoping to get a couple through because he recovers wounds for each one who kills with his knife, but obviously being 2 attacks, not that likely. So yeah, it's uphill. It's just sort of grinding out as many points as I can get, but we're going to keep going. I've got 1 CP now with the Tzeentch, so let's sort of see if anything can be done of value. We're going to have a shooting phase. Are we going to have a shooting phase? We're not. Nothing has shooting, so it's just going to be about combat, and all we're going to have is this spawn, because fell back. That spawn doesn't really fancy charging anything over there, just wants to make sure I get those points, and already in combat. So we might as well just roll to see if I can get into combat with those fiends now. I'm only going to charge the fiends, just because there's too many wounds for me to get through as is, and they are very quick, and so they're scoring lots of points on the side. But see if we can get in. We do. Like I said, I don't want to get any closer to the epitome. I really want to avoid that heroic intervention range. Seeing as that's the end of effectively the end of the round, what I'm going to do is I'm going to spend the 1 CP on the Thousand Suns stratagem for the spawn. I believe it's called Mutated Beyond Reason. And what that lets you do is lets you pick the result that you want on the table for the benefits that you get for that normally, and also lets you reroll the number of attacks. So that the attacks are D6, so I'm just going to do that and reroll it. Okay, 3. I'm going to gamble and try and reroll that and get a bigger number. Okay, great. Glad that's good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick the D3 result, which gives me 2 extra attacks. And some others improve the AP, which would be completely irrelevant against the Slaanesh. And also one that lets you reroll the wounds, which I would have taken had I gotten a better number. So I've got a total of 3 attacks. I'm not supposed to do it now. Or I wasted the CP that was. Hitting on 4s. Yeah, so to get 2 hits. And we're going to do on 3, so strength 5. So 1 goes through, it's 5 up invuln save. To fail, and it's just 2 damage, I believe. But I will double check that. And if it's any different, I'll let you know when I come back. So that's going to be the end of the turn anyway. So it's not going to kill a fiend. So points wise, like I said, we'll get my 3 for mental interrogation. Sorry, I still have the ongoing combats to do. So this is going to be the demonettes first. So in combat, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's 14 attacks. 7. And so that is 7 there. So we've got to roll this twice. 3s. And then 3s again, because I imagine this will probably do it. So it might be 4s actually, makes no difference. And then 4 open bombs to keep him alive. No, he's dead. So irrelevant. So I only get 2 points for engage this turn. He will die. And yeah, it's looking very, very tough for the Tzeentch now. So that was the end of turn 4. So obviously I have 1 turn left. Seeing as the Tzeentch went second, they do have the option for that sort of end of game scoring now. We'll see if that makes any difference as they're able to sort of do anything. And then lastly, we'll fight back with those fiends. Starting to feel like it was a mistake to charge now. But we're going to get 4 attacks each. We'll pile in over here, just so they can get into combat there. So 4, 8, 12 attacks. And now we're hitting on 3s. In this case, it's very, very good. I'm strength 4 base, but I'm near the epitome, which is also a herald, so it'll be strength 5, so it'll be wounding on 4s because more on the top 5. Okay. No 6s, so no mega AP on those. But they're all going to be at -1, and the spawn only has a 5-up save, and they're all 2 damage, so that means it would take 6 damage based on that. So the spawn is dead. So yeah, I thought I would maybe have to take a fiend or 2 out. If I didn't already have all the change death scoring me the engagement fronts, I wouldn't have done it. I would just kept him back there. But I kind of wanted to slow the fiends down from being able to fall back and charge. Obviously that hasn't happened. But nonetheless, probably, I don't know, maybe a bigger squad. Maybe I overestimated what the spawn could do. I thought if you could take 1 down, then it would only be 8 attacks coming in. And then by the time it's sort of whittled down, the spawn might just live, but didn't quite do it. But yeah, we'll come back into the Slaanesh turn. Okay, so for the Slaanesh turn then, and it's turn 5 now, I sort of have to think about, again, what the primaries are. So at the start of the turn, I'm holding 1 objective there, 2 over there, and 3 because of syll'esske there as well. So I will be getting the full 15 points. In terms of maximising my secondary points, if I can kill this Lord of Change and that rubric, that's a huge 10-point swing for not that much work at this point. And then lastly, I can use those Furies in the back there just to finish the point scramblers, which is guaranteed this turn because sort of nothing can stop them from doing that. They're a really great unit. I've sort of used them for the first time today, and sort of 12-inch move and having the infantry keyword and fly feels very, very good. I hope that stays that way. I'll certainly be using them more, I think, just for that utility. So yeah, I'm going to go into, I've sort of finished moving. I don't think there'll be anything particularly exciting happening there. We'll go into Psychic. Again, the only really exciting one normally is Hysterical Frenzy, and I don't have that I've got nothing in ongoing combat that's useful for. So it'll probably just come back in the shooting phase if there's anything relevant, which I don't think there will be. Maybe just the whip on Celeste, but I won't bother filming that, and then any other charges. And I think really the only interesting thing is going to be any combat involving this Lord of Change or syll'esske or Slaanesh. So we'll just see, but we'll come back. Alright guys, that is the end of the Slaanesh movement phase, and sort of as I expected, I've sort of swapped places there. So the keeper's come up to this corner. I tried to smite that rubric and actually couldn't, which was quite funny. Once denied, once just unable to cast it. The Furies over here did come here. They've now deployed scramblers in the middle. These demonettes have moved up. I sort of feel quite comfortable coming off of the objectives now. Sort of towards the end, sort of have such dominance on the primary that it's not going to be an issue at this point. I apologise. I have realised that I've forgotten to roll for the Locus of Trickery with that guy over there. Having a quick sort of think about it and the damage he's taken, I decided to give him a couple of wounds back. That may not be the fairest thing to do, but I wanted to sort of reflect that as well, because most of the things that were hitting him effectively were doing on 3s and 2s, so chances are I would have made some effect. Looking at the other Lord of Change, based on just how much damage it took in the end, I decided I couldn't go back and bring him back. I felt like I'd just done such overkill anyway. I think the turn that he died ended up doing something like, it was 15 damage from the spear and another 9 from the claws, because I just couldn't save anything. So I felt it was probably reasonable enough to assume that 3s and then 3s rerolling 1s was probably going to do it still. So yeah, intention this turn then is to try and take down the Lord of Change there with Psychic and with Combat. Sorry, I've already done Psychic. I did sort of nothing to it. So we're charging in a second. Kill off that rubric, so that's a 5-point swing. And then just sort of consolidate a little bit more and just think about what the Tzeentch needs to do and try and stop them from scoring any points. They still hold that objective there at the back, which is held at the moment by 10 Brimstone Horrors. Realistically, if I can get Syll'esske into them, would be better than getting Syll'esske into them and sort of swap, and he can go for the Brimstones whilst she goes for the rubric, just because weight of attacks. I forgot to say, last time I rolled 16 attacks for him, so it's on each is 8d3 basically. So getting a nice average there. I think I may have done that incorrectly in the earlier round, so I apologise, assuming it was flat 3 extra against the Pink Horrors. Again, not sure how much difference it would have made. Probably would have made a difference, especially if I had also remembered the Locus of Trickery as well. So again, I apologise for that. It's been a little while since we've played, so trying to remember everything when you're playing both sides is a little bit tougher. But yeah, we're going to have a very small shooting phase now with the whip. So if I finish off that rubric, then I can charge both things into those brimstones over there, and then that'll be it. So we'll come back with the sort of an end of round summary, I think. All right, so that is the end of the Slaanesh turn. I did remember to do the Trickery of Tzeentch this time. It made no effect really, stopped maybe 1 or 2 attacks coming from the Fiends. Rolled a 4 and a 6, so it was the 4s that were no longer hits. Over there, the rubric is gone, and those brimstones are gone. So I had the CP, so I just used CP to re-roll Syll'eske's charge and rolled a 12, and their keeper got there anyway. So in the turn, I then have. Oh, I also spent 1 CP to use the razor sharp claws stratagem from Engine War to give the demonettes -2 AP. That then finished off the spawn there. Important really because it stops the engageable front points coming in on the other side. In terms of what's left for the Tzeentch, it's only then this Lord of Change, which has taken 12 wounds, it only has 4 left. At the end of the Slaanesh turn, I do score engageable fronts again in each of the quarters. I also scored, like I said, finish off deploy scramblers, and then for bring it down, I have the 1 keeper left. But yeah, so it's going into turn 5 now. So that was turn 5, I think. I'll check that in a second. I've lost track of it. It's weird playing it yourself. And if so, that will leave the Lord of Change alive. Otherwise, maybe have one more chance of trying to kill them off, and that will just sort of give them 5 points each at the end if that does happen. But we'll come back after that. So the end of the turn, the Tzeentch turn, and therefore the end of the game. Not a huge amount happened. He did manage to survive. Obviously there was the ongoing combat in the Tzeentch turn. I couldn't fall back if I wanted to cast the mental interrogation. Sort of a calculated risk in hoping that he would survive that fight back. Again, I remembered the Locus of Trickery. The 5 was relevant this time, 5 and a 6, which made a much bigger difference than the last time. So alive with 2 wounds, did take a couple from the Fiends there. Other than that, there's nothing else left. So I was able to score mental interrogation. I didn't hold any objectives, and I wasn't in all 3 quarters. So that is the end of the game. my final thoughts, I suppose, are that the killing power of the Slaanesh just outmatched that of the Tzeentch. I was really surprised at sort of how poorly some of the shooting units actually did. So looking at the rubrics and the pinks in particular, so I had the ability to sort of teleport the Thousand Suns around the board with the Dark Matter Crystal that was on the Demon Prince. I really expected the combat that we had in the middle there to finish off that keeper much more quickly than it did. Sort of throwing everything into it and it not doing it really swung the course of the battle. That was probably the most pivotal moment. Ended up costing me a Demon Prince and a load of rubrics as well. Obviously I did take it down in the end, but probably was the issue. Obviously when I lost the Dark Matter Crystal, I lost the ability to then sort of zip things around, which meant anything that was getting tagged by fiends on that side couldn't then fall back anyway. So I did get the whilst we stand we fight 5 points, but one for Syll'esske, one for Lord of Change there. But yeah, so quite an overwhelming score in the end. Sort of goes in line with what we've been seeing in the tournaments as well. I think that again the Fury's really good. Feedback on the lists in general would be more about secondary choice, so taking mental interrogation. In the end I got 9 points for it in this game, losing out on a few rounds of it because of denials or not having range was big. Whilst we stand with fight doesn't look like it was a sensible choice for either armies. I probably wouldn't be doing that again. Instead probably focus more on ones that are more attainable. Generally it kind of got lucky this game that I rolled the 4-up invulns on the keepers, although there wasn't a huge amount of shooting coming into them. It probably did make a difference more than I realised. So yeah, that is the end of the game. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, I apologise for any sort of rules misunderstood or not used or just generally forgotten, because it's really only my second game with Slaanesh and both times have been against myself, so it's kind of harder to think about on both sides. And again, the Tzeentch as well, so again it's been a little while. It's kind of always harder when you're doing both sides to remember everything, but hopefully still some valuable insight for you guys.